Welcome to Flashback Tracks. Travel back in time each Friday to an era of big hair, leg warmers, and Walkmans.
Far out.
Veg out with some clips from Downtime Broadcasting's promotional audio cassette magazine from the 80s and 90s, right here on the World Wide Web.
The following is excerpted with permission Business Month Magazine, January 1987, copyright 1987 by Business Month Magazine Corporation, 38 Commercial Wharf, Boston, Massachusetts, 02110. It's entitled, 800, The Line is Busy.
Next to have a nice day, it's probably the most ubiquitous phrase in business today. Want to buy a bond, book a flight, send a bouquet, or rent a boat? Dial 800. Looking for a lawyer, a house, a personal computer, or a Ginsu knife? Dial 800. To find virtually any kind of investment, amusement, product, or service, all anyone needs to do nowadays is reach out and touch those three irresistible digits. Heeding that widely advertised inducement, each day 10 million telephone calls prefixed by 800 are made to businesses across the country at no cost to the caller. The 800 number helps companies put over new products, expand markets, assuage complaining customers, and keep in touch with their salesmen. It also enables thousands of tiny firms to market their goods or services with all the trappings of a national company. The 800 number is the #1 communications marketing tool of all time, says President Jack Trout of Manhattan's Trout and Reese Advertising. And if you don't think we're a phone-driven economy, you're from Mars. Up to now, at least, the 800 number also has provided AT&T, which dreamed up the idea in 1967 as an outgrowth of its Watts Wide Area Telecommunications Service operation, total monopoly of a market that the company says is growing by 15% a year and is the biggest factor in its $4 billion annual Watts revenues. More than 3 billion interstate 800 calls were placed in 1985, AT&T reports, 10 times the volume of a decade earlier. And the business edition of the latest 800 phone directory lists 61,000 companies in 773 business categories, a 50% increase over the first edition 3 years ago. As business finds more and more uses for it, we still can't see its saturation point, says William A. Lockhart, product manager of AT&T's dial-up services. Now, though, AT&T is seeing the first signs of competition for 800 business. MCI Communications, which has carved out a 9% slice of the long-distance market, began offering its own 800 service to a select list of customers last month and expects to have it commercially available by this year's second quarter. At U.S. Sprint, the joint venture of United Telecom and GTE Corporation that now claims a 5% share of the long-distance market, plans are afoot to introduce 800 service early this year and make it generally available by 1988. To AT&T, the competition lies. Ever since the 1983 divestiture Lockhart allows, we've known we could not have the total 800 market to ourselves indefinitely. Obviously, AT&T is not prepared to give up any of its market without a fight. The company recently filed proposed rate changes with the Federal Communications Commission that in part would reduce certain charges for 800 service. It has introduced a new service called ReadyLine, which enables small businesses to connect an 800 number to existing phone lines rather than having to use special dedicated lines. And it, too, plans to enhance its 800 system, Lockhart says.
The appeal of the 800 number is that it is a very cost-efficient way of enhancing sales. An 800 number on a coupon, ad, or mail-order catalog, AdMen attest, increases responses and sales by a minimum of 20%. E.I. DuPont de Nemours and Company, for example, claims that a recent rebate promotion keyed to an 800 number hiked sales of its Antron carpeting by $20 million. If companies simply invited the public to phone collect, the costs would be, of course, outrageously prohibitive. But charges for an 800 number are based not on individual incoming calls, but on total accumulated talking time. After installation charges, which are around $400 per access line, AT&T monthly rates depend on many factors, including the time of day calls are received, region of origin, and total hours of usage.
The article continues.
For all its advantages, figuring out the most efficient use of an 800 number can be difficult, Bob Self warns. For one thing, since it is impossible to predict the number of calls that may be pulled in by a particular ad, we often have trouble figuring out how many operators to have standing by at any given time. By the same token, they may order too few or too many access lines. And because talking time is money, incoming calls should be orchestrated so that the caller does not tie up the line too long.
Moreover, because it is perceived as a free phone call, the 800 number is subject to a variety of abuses. Once a number is advertised, Self notes, people tend to use it for every reason other than the one intended. At the least, he says, companies should caution employees that an 800 number is there for business reasons, not for blabbing with out-of-town friends or relatives. All in all, though, the 800 number is probably one of the very few consumer-oriented services that gets consistently good marks from both buyers and users.
Travel back in time with us next Friday as we share more clips from the 80s and 90s on another rad episode of Flashback Tracks, exclusively on Promo Corner. Time to bounce.